Unfaithfulness is the name of the game in SEASON's 6th episode, Silk, because individuals, each past and existing, seek to obtain the upper hand on competitors by turning to them during their greatest instant of need. Obviously, the loss of sight has not changed people's penchant for looking out for their own above all other issues. In the woods, Baba Voss and his clan always fend off the Witchfinder General's army, along with Baba screaming with regard to Magra, who's vanished from the tree hollowed out she'd shared with Paris. Boots appear and inform everyone that he saw Magra keep the woods with Tamakti June, and then pass away. We know this is a lie. The prior show proved that Magra is, in fact, the particular royal sister associated with Queen Cain, yet it's bolstered simply by Haniwa producing Magra's bag, stained together with blood. While Kofan doesn't believe this particular story, Baba, confronted with immediate danger, opts to take Boots in his word in addition to fleeing the area. Back again at Tamakti June's camp, the Witchfinder General explains in order to Magra that their orders are to discover her children. She gives him various orders to create Haniwa and Kofan to her, unharmed, and in return, she will tell him more about what has recently taken place. Tamakti June complies with this particular request. It's obvious that they were as soon as friends, informing her that he still understands who she essentially is, because we are who we have been. No amount of time can transform that. Boots leads his brand new family through the forest to a well-hidden cave, only to lock these questions cage that happens to be a mineshaft escalator. As Baba and even Haniwa scream from him, he confides that there are too many of these to trust and that he is better off alone. He then lowers the escalator into the darkness beneath. Upon reaching the bottom part, Haniwa lights typically the letter she obtained from Jurlameril regarding light, but it does not last long, and they are soon making their way with the pitch-black murk. In the silk house, Cain holds one of the cocoons she's tasked using, handling her hearing the earthworm inside move around. The captive named Cora, Jessica Harper, warnings Cain that she must notify the overseers immediately, which Cain's decision to prevent working will not be viewed favorably. Cora states that Cain is not the first woman regarding influence and capacity to kneel before the stand of Cutter, Timothy Webber, but that she should, classes worse fates compared to living here, exactly where everyone is fed, sheltered, and not molested. Cain hardly views this as a great feature for this outpost, as well as for refusing to get using the program. She's generally beaten by one of many overseers. We're after that treated to a flashback of Cain seated at the deathbed involving her father, the particular king. After putting down to do her better to preserve his heritage, Cain calls for Magra, who's only a younger girl, and guarantees that, despite the arriving changes to their globe, I'm going to look after you. Unfortunately, no sooner is the fact that oath spoken and then it's torn asunder by the king themselves, who whispers within Magra's ear 4 words that will get a new course of the kingdom, together with history itself: you must rule, quickly. Magra recounts her father's choice, which normally ruined her partnership with her sister, and places them both upon their own fateful courses, to Tamakti June. He responds by simply saying that what the ruler intoned was much less destructive than Magra's subsequent conduct. Within their ensuing discussion, all of us discover that he's talking about Magra's attempt, whenever older, to catch the throne through Cain, with the support of most of the kingdom's generals and 50% of the court. Her failure, it turns out, has been brought about by Tamakti June himself, who declined to go along with the plan, believing Magra as well young for this type of maneuver. Magra had been and obviously remains unhappy about this, since actually at a relatively early age, she knew exactly what her sister might become. See segues back to Baba's great troop, who get to a chamber lighted by glowing blue bugs on the roof. A woman is there, and they tell her they've found their way to this place because of Boots' unfaithfulness. Before they can obtain bearings, they're assaulted and knocked away. When they awaken, they reach a locked space and have been drugged, having queen stock, mushrooms to numb the senses. Paris explains there are stories of teams that, in the consequences of the apocalypse, required refuge underground. Essentially, they're prisoners associated with some more people that don't take generously to intruders. As though having Magra attempt to steal her throne in the past wasn't sufficient betrayal for Cain, she's duped back again at the Silk home by Cora, that narrates her own existence story. The girl was beaten since a child until she was lastly murdered her harassing father as a means of gaining Cain's trust, and studying her true identification. Kane not only informs Cora who she actually is, but talks a little about the stark, chilly indifference she experienced from her own father. It was then, states, that she noticed that, in this lifestyle, one must take those lives one desires. Cora notifies her that there are approximately 30 workers in support of 4 overseers, as well as the cutter, and that weapons can be found to them should they decide to revolt. There'll become no such trend, however, because Cora promptly takes this specific newly gained intel about Kane and relays it to be able to cut her. Dragged into Sea Cutter, she vows to make her pay for his insolence. He's not concerned about that at the present second, though, and instead chooses to use her like a bargaining chip along with Tamakti June, who else he knows may wish to secure Kane's secure return. In order to convince Tamakti June he actually has Kane in his possession, the cutter machine slices out of Kane's chest a regal amulet that's incorporated into each fresh monarch. In their cavern prison, Paris tearily apologizes to Baba for leading Haniwa and Kofan, and therefore all of them, into this kind of trouble, but he doesn't accept culpability. When a lady arrives, Baba holds her and needs answers. She declaration that her name is Delia, and this she was also caught in this place simply by Boots, who was her son. Delia explains that Boots was horribly roughed up by their clan for achieving the power of sight, which, with no dad around since Gerlameril bolted shortly after the little one was conceived, he grew therefore angry that he killed all of their fellow Opale. Knowing her children is a rabid canines, she makes them claim that, if they get away with her help, they will find and destroy him. Delia guides our heroes returning to the elevator, after which she departs to keep off approaching opponents. By the sounds of her shouts, that doesn't end nicely for her. Because the elevator is managed by a lever, Baba stays below in addition to raising his family to the top, simply to be attacked by a number of faceless adversaries whom he killers in stunningly raw fashion outlined by him impaling one guy and even tearing another's mouth apart with his uncovered hands, in intense close-up, no less. Making matters even worse, when Kofan together with Haniwa attempted to reduce the elevator down again to Baba, this break, plummeting towards the ground below. As a result, Baba has to ascend up the elevator base to reunite together with his family, a chapter that generates an amazing amount of tension contemplating we know Baba cannot perish this earlier in the show's run. While Baba, Haniwa, Kofan, Paris, and Bo Lion travel once more through the woodland, Magra is reunited at Tamakti June's camp with Boot. Unaware of his treason, she welcomes him into her hands. Boots tells her that he doesn't understand the location of her family, whom he lost track of throughout the fighting. And seeing Tamakti June kneel before her, showing she has power, Boot Styles makes Magra a deal. He'll provide the woman with assistance, in addition to make you solid, so long as the lady agrees to treat him well. Before she can give Boots a solution, Tamakti June gets Cutter's message, and even passes it on to Magra, who's persuaded of its authenticity from the amulet that comes with it. In light of the turn of events, Boots' proposal sounds even more enticing, specifically given that he can view the 2 shadows who delivered Cutter's advertisement skulking around the camp. A final zoom-in to close-up concludes prior to Magra can take Boots as her new lieutenant. However, the look on her face suggests it is already a carried-out deal.